Okay, I thought a fun video idea would be if I like explain my whole OC story in like excruciating detail. And by excruciating detail, I just mean going on like as many tangents as I want and doing just talking about it as much as I would like to. So I'm gonna do that. I don't think anybody would wants to watch this, but it's fine. I'm just gonna talk about it anyway because I just feel like it and I'm really bored. So I I have a world, right? It's this universe, and I call it Aishu, spelled Aishu. And basically, it's it's um it's a universe where the first like primordial entities were like these Eastern dragon type creatures. We just call them dragons. I call them dragons. I mean, um, and so basically, right? They're these dragons. They're like the primary. They're like the deities, basically, of the universe, whatever. And um, they make planets based on what they're like dreaming of in their head. It's like a whole thing. For example, like I have the one that's relevant to the story, obviously, is Earth, and I have a dragon OC named Oriyoshi, who I'll bring. Actually, one second, I'll bring him up now. Ignore that. Is this guy? So this is Oriyoshi, right? He's a dragon, and he made the Earth in this universe, and you know, dragons can make worlds that are just like endlessly destructive, or like one that just has a bunch of like gold or like treasure in it, But Oriyoshi was the first dragon to dream of a world with life on it. It's his whole thing. So basically, you have him, right? He made the Earth, and then in the Earth, we actually have a bunch of other things too. So, one second. I have I have an image that's kind of like just the um okay, Rayo Sky. It's also known as Earth, but I call it Rayo Sky like in the it's basically like Earth, you know what I mean? And this is the map, right? France and Nevada are basically the same. Everything else is new. And so what do you have? You have ooh, it is thundering. You have Sikkim, you have the Seabourn Isles, you have the Cowsian Islands, and you have East Sikkim, and you have the Isles of Rayo. So I'll explain to you what these areas usually have. Sikkim is kind of like, I would say, probably the most. I don't know. It's where most of the story takes place. Right now, what I have for it is I have most of my OCs live there, in this universe live there. All of my OCs actually are in this, live here, by the way, or almost all of them. And I know there's like a university here. I know one of my characters was born in France, and he goes to Nevada later. That's gonna be Aurel, but I don't need to talk about him yet. Whatever. East Sikkim is kind of just like Sikkim. I always imagined Sikkim was a little bit more urban, and East Sikkim was more like pastures and barns and that type of stuff. The Cowsian Islands, there's a lot of crime going on the Cowsian Islands. It's like a very, it's just it's not a great place. It's not good to live in. Um, so, sorry, one sec. And then you have the Isles of Rayo. The Isles of Rayo is a pretty sacred place. You see Isles of Rayo, and you know how the dragon's name is Oreoshi. It's kind of like, it's kind of like that. Where um, this is like a holy place. And the Seabourn Isles, I always imagine the Seabourn Isles to be like for rich people. Like all the people who are wealthy usually live in the Seabourn Isles. But like Sikkim is like where most people live. But it's not like poor necessarily. It's just Seabourn is like especially like luxurious. You know what I mean? So there's that. Um, well, that, and I also have another idea in my head that Sebring just has a different culture, and that whatever it, that's that. And then so he made it, right? Oh, he made Rail Sky, and basically he kind of just watched over life as it was, blooming and happening and changing, and um over the years, there were certain people who kind of proved that they could be of help to the Earth, in the sense that, like, they could help defend it from things like asteroids. Uh, sorry, ignore my nails. Um, I don't know, those just like threats, threats to the Earth or threats to people. But we'll get into that later. So my first character that is relevant for is Wu. He's the first Dragonbound, which is what that means. That's like when Oriyoshi sort of blesses them and gives them sort of supernatural powers to help defend the Earth. That's what a Dragonbound is. So he's the first one of those. He's a human, but he's the first one of those. He can fly. He can go around, do all these things. It's mostly so that he can destroy any incoming celestial objects that might, like, damage life on Earth or life on Rail Sky. And he was, like, abandoned by his parents, I'm pretty sure. I kind of, like, need to refresh myself on the lore that I literally made myself, but he's abandoned by his parents on a rock. It was kind of like a Ariadne type situation, and he, I guess, was seen by Oriyoshi and sort of taken in, because I don't know. I'm kind of working on it, like, as this is happening. So that's just something that I know happened. That happened for sure. So there's that. And then the second Dragonbound, there's only two, I think, right now. Let me see. Yes. So there's only two Dragonbound. I have a folder. So obviously Oriyoshi is the dragon of Rail Sky. He's the one that made it. And then you have Wu, who's the first Dragonbound, and then Arel, who's the second Dragonbound, chronologically. I know Arel is first, but that's just because it's alphabetical order. So Orel is crazy because he was an orphan for a long time. He had loving parents, but they kind of, like, it was a Bruce Wayne situation where they both died in a car crash. And I know that's kind of like cliche, but I don't know. I've just kind of gone with it. I feel like it doesn't really matter. So basically, right? He was orphaned at a young age, and he lived in an orphanage for a very, very long time. He just was never picked. It's really sad. It's not even that he was bad. It's just that he was not picked. And so there's always just someone, more appealing. And so is that very, or going on from that, he was growing up, and he lived in that same orphanage until he was 15, I'm pretty sure. And there was one day whenever a fire broke out in the orphanage that he lived in, and he was asleep when it happened, and nobody came to get him. And so he had to, sort of fight his way out of the a orphanage that's burning down, which is obviously very hard. And so some way through that, his, like, journey to be outside, he does make it outside, but what happens before that is I imagine, like, a piece of wooden debris, like, falls and, like, just, like, basically amputates his arm. Maybe that's unrealistic. I don't know. But So he loses his right, or no, no, it's his left arm. His left arm. So his left arm gets amputated, and he, I remember there's a piece for this that I made. This was a long time ago, so don't judge my art. But um, this is what that's supposed to be. So he's outside the orphanage, and his arm got amputated, and so basically he falls to the ground and dies. Actually, he actually dies, and but Oriyoshi, whoops, saw that, and saw his story, and he sort of took him up to, I guess, heaven, where, whatever, to just talk with him for a little bit, and he was like, that's kind of crazy, and I want you to like be part of my team, and so or I was like, whoa, this is crazy, but I'll do it because he kind of has nothing else to do, because he just died. So he gets wings. I don't know if you saw in those pictures, but he does have wings. His arm is still missing, and he has to put on a mask. Oh, another thing, all the Dragonbound, they have to cover their face in some way. They have to like cover their identity and be anonymous. I imagine it's like that thing where it's like, superheroes, they don't really reveal who they are. That kind of deal. So those are the two Dragonbounds. And also one more thing I should mention, Aurel, he's not the same as Wu, in that Wu literally protects the literal Earth from like other like incoming sort of like asteroids or whatever. But Aurel, he's more like sort of like a Spider-Man type deal, where he like helps civilians and protects them from like the horrors of humanity sometimes, like just like, what I mean. So that being said, those are the two Dragonbounds. And now we have all of these people. So I'm probably not going to go in depth about all these people's stories, because this video is going to be long as hell. But basically these are the denizens, and by that I just mean they just live here. These people all live in different parts of Rayo Sky. I know that to be true, and they all have different stories, and some of them even intertwine with these guys, but not all of them. For example, Lady is an alien that crashed into Earth. Lady's like asteroid was really like indestructible, and Wu couldn't get it to, like, he couldn't destroy it, and so she basically like crashed into Earth, and she doesn't know who she is. She doesn't know what's going on. And Wu finds her and sort of wonders like what is even happening, and tries to interrogate her. But before he can even do that, Oriyoshi sort of like pulls him out. I don't know if you know Kid Icarus, with like how Palutena can pull like Pit out like from battle. That's what I imagine Oriyoshi did to Wu. I don't know why I keep doing like the sign, whatever. So she gets pulled, or Wu gets pulled out, and then Oriyoshi's like, "This is really interesting, and I want to see what I want to see how she interacts with the life on my planet, And so she kind of has just been like living in the flower fields for a long time, and just like being one with nature. She's kind of like Lorax in that aspect, but she is wandering around, and then eventually she stumbles into Kosei, who's another guy of mine. This guy. And they kind of have their own story, but I'm not going to go into that. They also have Kaori, who grew up in the Cajun Isles. She was traumatized very much at a young age, and it's kind of caused her to be like sort of like a bad bitch, I guess. I don't know why I said that. Um, you have Cassie. She gets stuck in a TV and traverses the intranet. I haven't really developed her story too much, but I just know that happens. There's stuff like this where she's sort of like in here. This is another OC that belongs to a friend of mine that is sort of like he's supposed to like help her uh sort of out of her initial shock when she enters the interwebs. There's also this like she's like I'm stuck on the internet, because she is, and she's very like Y2K, all that stuff. So, there's Mariana, who is a pop star. I kind of base her off of like Japanese city pop stars from like the 80s. Mochi, who is kind of just a nice deer, and she was her boyfriend, and she was here too. These people kind of aren't really associated with like anything Dragon Bound related. I mean, Mochi and Shiro know Kosei, and I guess Kosei knows Lady, and Lady has interacted with Wu, but Shiro and Mochi, like, I know. Actually, no, I know Mochi. I don't know. Anyway, and then you have Celine. Celine is actually Aurel's lover. These two, they're in love and they kiss. Because she's kind of like the one who kind of grounds him because he's such a weird person and weird case. She like, cause how I want this to go is he saved her as a kid, and I have this bit where like Aurel can't be seen by anyone unless Aurel can't be seen by anyone unless he has saved them or like has had to save them from whatever tragedy. And so he saves Celine. I say as a kid, but they were the same age. Like he was like probably 16. She's probably like 15. I don't know. I haven't really thought that far into it, but and so because of that, one time Celine is just walking around and manages to see him again, just out and about, and it's like, who are like you have wings, like you're the I don't think she remembers, but she can still see him, and he's like, oh my god. And so it unfolds into all of these like shenanigans, and eventually, because they're just spending so much time together, they're like, you know what I mean? So that's kind of everyone. I plan to add, like, in the future, I want to develop the story more and have more characters and more planets with more characters on those planets too, so that I can, like, just infinitely, like, sort of grow my story over my lifetime, as in my real life lifetime. I'm 20 now, but I don't know. Maybe this will grow bigger eventually. But, yeah. So that's my story. I hope you liked it.